Welcome in for another OUA season preview. This time I'm here with Laurier Golden Hawks coach, Michael Faulds. Thank you so much for having me as a part of your practice today. Training camp's just getting started. Initial thoughts on your team this year?
Yeah, well, only a couple days in, as the viewers can hear, my voice is gone. So that's always a good sign that we're coaches, players, everyone's back in training camp mode. But there's lots of excitement. Obviously, I think there's 27 teams, 11 OUA teams that have lots of excitement this type of year. But, ours is, very true. We've got a great veteran group that's back. We had an outstanding recruiting class. And we're very pleased with our coaching staff. So I think we're going to put out a good product on the field.
And a big part of that last year was the rushing attack. So we'll start up front with the offensive line and the two-headed monster that was Tanner Nelms and Quentin Scott. What can we expect from that group this year?
Yeah, no, Quinn Scott, Tanner Nelms, both hardworking individuals. I'd add a third back to that, Darian Bassett-Hayden. So kind of a triple threat back there, which is good because you're always sending, to that opposing defense, a fresh back who's very capable. And that's right behind a bigger, stronger offensive line. So we've done a great job in recruiting and just developing our players in the offseason, knowing that this conference goes through the Western Mustangs, and the last 2 years, their opponent in the Yates Cup has been the Queens Gales. So those two opponents, what separates them from the other 9 teams in the OUA right now is their two lines, the offense and defensive line. And as we all know in playoff football, when it's cold weather, when it's wet weather, you've got to be able to run the ball. You've got to be able to stop the run. So we've really focused on that. And I think our line play is going to be really good this year and help those running backs find some lanes.
And one of the biggest things that took me by surprise, well, not really by surprise because we know the weapons and the ability to stretch the field with Taylor Elgersma and Raiden Thorne and oh God, I'm blanking his
Ethan
name.
Jordan.
Yeah, Ethan Jordan. I just watched him take a couple deep balls. But the ability to stretch the field with them, how does that kind of keep teams on their toes?
Yeah, you have to have a balanced attack, right? If you're only great at one dimension, obviously that makes it easier for opposing defensive coordinators. So everything runs through Taylor Elgersma, but I always say to great quarterbacks like Taylor is, you're the facilitator. Every play has an A, B, and a C, and the A is always the center. The B is always you, the quarterback, and your job is to find out who that C is. We've got some great C's, Raiden Thorne, Ethan Jordan. The list goes on in terms of receivers. We talked about the running backs. So Taylor's got weapons all around him. We're going to do our best to keep him upright so he has time to find those weapons.
And he's kind of had a lucky experience the last 2 seasons being a part of the mentorship program with the CFL. How much have you seen that kind of change his approach and kind of his throwing motion, the refinement in that?
Yeah, no, he's really loved it, and he's loved the consistency. We've seen players in the past spend 1 year with the Cats, 1 year with the Argos, maybe go to somewhere else another year. The fact that he had 2 straight years with the Argos and Coach Dinwiddie and that same staff, that really paid off, because everything's moving a million miles per hour. He's learning a lot that first year. And then to go back to the Argos camp again this year, he felt right at home. And got to take a few more reps. And I know, even his relationship with Chad Kelly and the rest of the quarterbacks in that room was pretty strong. So he came back to us then for our summer training with more confidence, with more poise. And I think it's going to pay off.
And you're talking Argos, so we'll flip to the defense quickly. Ife Onyemanum is back from Argos training camp after being drafted this last year. Talk about the value and the leadership that he brings to your defense.
Yeah, he's a leader by example type guy. So Ife's not a rah, going to pump you up, going to break down the team, but everyone respects Ife because of how hard he works. And you love that as a coach. So there doesn't matter if we're in special teams, a linebacker indie drill, or a defensive team period. Ife's the one flying around that you really notice on tape. So we're excited to have him back. We've got some great other linebackers around him. And what makes his job a lot easier is that defensive front, that defensive line that we have in front of him, which we're excited about.
Headlined by Luke Brubaker, who is a big name in the OUA, and everyone who does not know is going to get a rude awakening this year. Talk about him and the value he brings.
Yeah, Luke is, again, a leader by example type guy. He's our hardest worker. And he's physically impressive, right? He's definitely one of those guys when you walk off the bus, you're like, that's a professional football player body. And he's got that work ethic. So he's going to be tough to block. And, teams are probably going to send a running back his way, try to chip him a little bit. But it's kind of pick your poison because Brandon Omanua, Chisenham, Abraham Odiasi, Omari Hastings, Matt Caruso, we've got a long list of defensive linemen that Coach V has the luxury of rotating through. And we're excited too, because that group right now is being coached by two of our former great defensive linemen in Trayvon James and Kwaku Boateng.
Yeah, I couldn't help but notice a plethora of alumni like Willamoa, and I think Tommy Bringy was out today too.
Yeah, Malcolm Thompson.
Malcolm and all the other alumni, like you mentioned, Kwaku and Trayvon. Talk about having the past pro players and past stars of this program mentoring that next year.
Yeah, I think it's great. And, I always love bringing in our former players because they speak the same language. They know the culture. They know what these players are going through. They know what we're looking for as coaches because they went through it. And I think it's really testament to a healthy program. If you look at programs as recruits and you don't see any alumni coaching at that school, it's usually a reflection that maybe those players didn't have a great experience. Our guys here had a great experience under our coaching, which is why they want to come back and coach with us.
And it's also trying to reach that level that they got with you back 2015, I believe your Yates Cup was, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2016
sorry.
is when we won it, and then 2017 we went back and came up short. But yeah, it's nice to bring back members of that team because they knew or they know what it took to get to that level, and they can mentor some of our young guys.
In terms of expectations, we talked, or you had mentioned earlier, how Western's been the one and Queens has been the two the last couple of years. What does it take for you guys to get to that level to be one of those top two teams at the end of the season this year?
Yeah, it's a boring answer, but it really is, stepping stones and
Yeah.
getting better every day. So I'm such a process oriented, driven person that, our first practice, which was actually Yates Cup week last year, because we practiced all the way up to the Vanier, it was, preparing to play those teams this year. Right. So it's not like we're preparing because we're in training camp now. Every lift, every decision in recruiting, like I mentioned, was to get bigger, stronger, to be able to play with some of those physical teams because we feel our skill players are matched up against anyone in the country. We need to get better and bigger in the two lines. And that being said, like those are unbelievable teams. And there's some other great teams. Obviously, Ottawa was a powerful team last year, and you go down the list. That's what makes OUA football so exciting. Is every single week there's good football games and competitive games.
Perfect. And I guess the one group that we haven't quite talked about yet is the secondary on defense. You've got some transfers, some guys coming back from injury. What's the outlook for that group as we head into this season?
Yeah, we're excited. So Nico McCarthy, he was at the regional combine, but he's back at free safety. Missing all of last year to an ACL injury was Ao Ajayi, who was an all-star player the year before. Malik Cote had an outstanding year last year at boundary corner. And then, like, as you said, we've added a couple players like Daniel Legal from York. We've added Jahari Hastings from SFU. So there's going to be a lot of battles with those guys plus other veterans. So, Coach Mike Daly, Coach Willamoa, they have, they've got some tough decisions to make to see who those 8-9 DBs dressing every week are.
But in terms of depth, it's one of the biggest blessings that you can have right at the start of the year when you're looking at training camp. And you've got two lines where you see guys you're like, yeah, you could start. It really ends up folding into having a really strong core and a really strong 45 man by the end of the year.
100%. And as we know, even though it's a quick season, you're only guaranteed 8 of them. You could play 12 or 13. Injuries happen. As much as you knock on wood and try not to, you don't want to be a team where your starters are amazing, but you suffer a couple of injuries and you're a shadow of yourself. We're in a position where, you never want injuries, but we're a little bit bulletproof in the sense that we could handle a bit of, maneuvering in the roster because we are so depth.
Perfect. Well, I won't take up more of your time because you've got meetings and film to get to. But thank you so much for having me here today and best of luck for this season.
Appreciate you coming out and thank you for spreading the great news about OUA football.
Joining me now, fresh off of his practice, Taylor Elgersma, the quarterback for the Laurier Golden Hawks. Taylor, thank you for joining me today. And how's camp going, I guess, to start?
It's awesome. I mean, the first couple of days of camp, the energy is always super high. It's always super competitive, and we got a great defense that we get to go against every day. So, going to compete against them again in full pads is always fun.
Talk to me about the defense and kind of the athleticism that you guys have on that side of the ball and what it's like for you going against them every day.
I mean, I'm super blessed that I get to go against the best defense in the country every single day. We got an outstanding D-line, outstanding linebackers, and outstanding secondary that push our offense to get better every single day. We got guys like Luke Brubaker, who's an athletic freak, and can't say enough special things about him. And Ifeanyi Menem just back from the CFL, and we got some special pieces over there that push us to be great every single day.
Absolutely. And as you kind of go through camp, there's always that ebb and flow. I noticed one thing that you were big on today was really pumping up the defense when they made a play. Maybe you threw a touchdown the play before, but if they had a good run fit, you were making sure to come over and go out of your way to pump up that guy. Where does that come from for you as a leader for this team?
I mean, ultimately, it's fun. It's fun to win in practice with practice to make us better, and it's to make them better as well. And I want to see our defense making plays. I want to see us making plays, and I want to see us competing every single day because we know how much we have here on this team. We know how special this group is, and we're going to build each other up all season so that we can get to where we want to go.
Now let's talk about your side of the ball because it is looking like it's going to be an electric show all year long with you throwing the ball to your receivers. So talk about that for a bit.
I mean, we got a lot of guys back, and the guys that we lose, we have guys ready to step up, and we got a lot of electric pieces like we talked about. I mean, Raiden Thorne, Ethan Jordan, Avery Scott, all back from last year, and we got guys back on the O-line like Cooper Hamilton that are ready to push people around. So my job is to get the ball in those guys' hands and let them do what they do best and make plays.
And for you, as you kind of go another year in this offense, what's your kind of progression as you build up year in, year in?
Like for me, every single year going to take a step, and having a full year under my belt last year and seeing kind of where our offense got to go last year, it's everything just slows down even that much more coming into my third year, and you feel that much more comfortable. And when the game slows down, it gets easy. I get to just focus on making throws, and that's the fun part about playing quarterback.
Now, the guys that get to stand behind you or beside you, depending on the play, the running back group, two-headed, three-headed monster. There's just guy after guy after guy that can seemingly break off a huge run. Talk about the benefit to having that with you.
Our backfield is loaded, and all of our backs provide something a little bit different for our offense. I mean, we have the electric runs coming from Avery where you don't know where he's going, but he just makes everyone miss. And then we have Tanner and Darren, our downhill backs, and Tanner can do it all. He can catch passes, he can run downhill, he can run guys over. And Darren, we call him the bus because he's just gonna run downhill right over guys. So like our backfield is so diverse, and I think having the ability to flip them in and out all the time provides us with a bunch of different ways to use them.
Yeah, I noticed one throw today you had. It was just like a bubble screen out to Avery, and all of a sudden he's gone 30 yards. It's like, oh, that's a nice thing to have on second and long or even first and long. Like, for you though, how do you? I guess the plays call themselves, and you make your reads. But when you're in the zone and you're going, is it more likely to take deep shots because you've got an arm? The ball jumps out of your hand. How do you kind of temper that down to say, okay, let's take what's given to us right away?
The big thing that I've always kind of focused on since I've come here is we kind of have a philosophy that if teams want to play man against us, they're screwed. We're going to win. We're going to take deep shots. But in zone, we're going to take what they give us. I'm going to trust the scheme. I'm going to trust my eyes. I'm going to trust my reads and put the ball in those guys' hands and let them go make guys miss as opposed to trying to force it all the time.
And how much have you been able to develop that and also you're refining your throwing motion through the Argos program this year?
Being with Toronto has been a huge blessing. I mean, schematically, obviously, it's next level from the OUA, and whenever you take a jump, you're going to learn more and you're going to grow. And there's outstanding coaching staff there that I got to learn from. Doing indie with them every single day, getting to do team reps, skelly reps, all that. It just trains my eyes to be faster, trains my feet to be faster, which mechanically sharpens me up too. And so all that just provides a great way for me to learn.
Now, looking at this season coming up, the last couple of years, I just talked with Coach Faulds about this. It has been Western, Queens. What's it going to take for you guys to get up into that top two, playing for a Yates Cup this year?
I think we've seen that we have the potential to be there, and I think all it takes is for us to execute. We have all the pieces we need in this locker room to not only Western Queens to go as far as be the best team in the country. I think everyone in that locker room knows that and has confidence in that. All it takes is us playing our best game every single week, putting our best foot forward and executing.
Thank you very much. Well, I know it's a busy day for you. You got to get some ice on your shoulder. But thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me.
Of course, pleasure.